Hello, welcome to Dan Does. Today is a terrain / scale model episode, so I figured I'd film the intro on some terrain. This is how old I look in the daylight. Hope you enjoy the video. This video has a purpose. If you watch the video, you'll find out why. I think, unless I forget to do it in the voiceover, which often happens. Enjoy. Hello, welcome to Dan Does. Today I'm doing terrain for Wargaming and whatever else you want to do with it. If you want to just stomp around the house, pretend you're a giant, this is the video for you. Now, some of you may think that doing terrain is out of my comfort zone. It absolutely is not. I was doing terrain long before I was sculpting things. I've just got in a rut. But I love doing this stuff, and this video, I'm going to warn you now, is quite a long one, so I do apologise. I mean, you do have the right to stop whenever you want, as a lot of you do. I've seen the statistics, but you are free to live your life. God, it's a bit heavy already, isn't it? So I got a sheet of card, it's quite thick card, and a pen and a big bulky metal ruler that is very awkward to use. Actually, I should probably get rid of it. I'm going to design the building that you've probably already seen on the thumbnail. So let's get going. Yeah, boy!
The police coming straight from the underground.
You know, somewhere in a retirement home there's an old gangster that gets 20 pence every time somebody draws one of those S's. And if you don't send him the 20 pence, he will send the boys out, those that are still alive. On to the actual build now. I'm cutting out the framework for the barn, and instead of doing one heavy cut with the handyman's murder weapon, I'm doing several lighter cuts. It's easier, trust me. I've seen guys in this hobby chop their legs off. I mean, we usually just hot glue the stub and it ends up fine. Speaking of hot glue, I'm pulling out the old hot glue gun. I don't use this thing often because for some reason I imagine that summers in England are hot and they will melt the glue and everything on my shelf will fall apart, but that's not the case. An English summer will never be hot enough to melt hot glue. Using a granddad saw, going to chop up this stick. This stick is a cotton candy stick that I bought in a packet from the Amazon. Much cheaper than balsa wood. Not as soft, but you know, wood is wood. And I'm using these sticks on the inside corners of the building to make the thing lovely and sturdy with a bit of hot glue. It also helps to get the right angles. Using hot glue is incredibly satisfying, I have to admit it. This is the barn standing up. This is the size. I have measured it against my horrors. And this is the bones of the project to come. Now we're just adding shit. Here is a sheet of pink gold, XPS foam, extruded polystyrene. And this is a centimetre thick. This is about as thick as you can get in England. And I must apologise because it does look like my arm is very naked there. I want to assure you that I've got short sleeves on. Never cut anything while you're in the nude. Anyway, these sheets are a centimetre thick. It's the best we can get in England, but as far as what I need it for, it's perfect. I'm going to be making bricks using the handyman's murder weapon there. Cutting slices, very satisfying. You know, I often wondered to myself, why do I add sound effects when I could just record the actual live sounds? Well, usually I'm watching an incredibly loud action movie on the television at the same time. So it just wouldn't work, and I'm not going to give up me Keanu. A bread slice is to burger bun as XPS foam is to Lego. What I mean by that is this is very cheap Lego that you have to glue. I mean, there is a catch. Anyway, I have a big old pile of bricks here, but they look far too neat. I hear you. You're saying, those bricks are far too neat, Dan. Or Bill, if you're confused. Well, you are absolutely right. Not about the bill thing. This is an empty jar from my sweet shop. Tom Thumb drops. And I'm going to use this to beat these bricks up a bit. To do this, I will need to fill this jar with stones. And the only stones I have to hand is this lovely selection of my daughter's precious stones and gems. She won't mind if I beat them up a little bit. She had to put the heart one at the top, didn't she? Beth, I'm sorry. I can't do it! Suppose I'll just have to stand up, won't I? Bloody walk down. I didn't get into this hobby to move around much, right? I didn't do this to go outside. Ah, Jesus Christ! Is it sunny? I'm going to be this sunny and this cold. Oh, there. Happy, Beth? It's for the best. Anyway, I need to take these stones and chuck them into the Tom Thumb jar. Tom. I used to go to school with a kid called Tom. When I was about 11, 12. And this kid... I mean, I know kids are kids, but this kid was a real arsehole. I mean, I'll be honest, I've never told anybody this, but he was a real bully. If I think about it real hard, I can still hear his voice.
Can anybody else smell wee? Oh, look, it's Dan, who smells of wee. Pissy Dan.
I don't.
Oh, you do. You bloody do. What kind of 11-year-old has a beard?
Mummy says it's my face pet. Anyway, you're just angry because you don't have any pubes yet.
Yeah, that's right. I'm 11. At least I don't come to school looking like Harry and the Hendersons.
My mummy says that you're just mean to me because you want to be my friend.
Well, your mum sounds like an idiot. I don't want to be your bloody friend, pissy pants.
One day I'll show you. I'll show all of you.
You'll never make anything of yourself, Dan. I imagine that in 10 to 15 years there will be an online platform where people can make films and show their own things on the internet that hasn't been invented yet. And even then you'll fail, you fucking loser.
Fuck you, Tom. Now, some of you are probably thinking, did Dan just metaphorically beat up an 11-year-old? The answer is yes, because luckily Tom died about 10 years ago and there aren't any recent photographs of him on the internet. And now that those bricks have been beaten up, ready to be used in the build. Remember the build? I'd almost forgotten. I'm going to use wood glue and this here smear paddle. These things take me right back. Now I'm going to do a montage of bricks for as long as I can be bothered. Which won't be long. See? And when it comes to the corner bricks, I cut a little indent in so they can slot on nicely. Now I've saved you about a day of gluing bricks to this cardboard, but there's all the bricks that I'm going to use. And I've added a long one above the door there, which is called a lintel or lintel. It's a type of beam, a horizontal structural element that spans openings such as portals, doors, windows and fireplaces. It can be a decorative architectural element or a combined ornamented structural item. Using some self-balling tinfoil, going to rub a bit of texture onto all the XPS foam. Often when I walk to work, I look at bricks and things and think, I'd like to recreate that. I'm going to show you a few examples. Old wall. Shy wall. Jonathan wall. Indecision wall. Floor wall. Floor wall. Communist wall. And once that's done, it's time to move on to the other exposed cardboard. And I'm going to use these small foam sheets and corrugated card. Now this stuff is called EVA foam. I don't know what EVA, evaporated? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I'm going to heat it with a heat gun until it's slightly soft and then rub some texture into it. I'm pretty sure Bill Making Stuff has done this before on one of his videos. But it's fine because we share DNA. I'm going to use these sheets as metal panels on the side of the building. That and the corrugated card. We're going to have a bit of a collagey thing. Magic! There you go. I've done it to all the sides. It looks very, very colourful. Believe me, it will not by the end. Once all the sides are done, I'm going to take this. Now this I-beam, this acrylic I-beam, I bought this a while ago from a hobby shop that was just down the road from me when I moved here. But it shut down shortly afterwards, which is a real shame because I could probably use it now. But to be honest, I'd go in there, not actually want to buy anything, but would buy something because I felt obligated. And this I-beam was one of those things. And yes, I'm aware that you can make an I-beam quite easily with some card. But the owners were looking at me. Now using the handyman's murder weapon, I'm going to cut 2 grooves at each end of the barn, at the points, ready for the I-beam to slot in. And be extra careful when you do this, everybody. Now this is why this is considered an incredibly sexy hobby, because we are covered in many, many scars, just like Action Man. With the I-beam in place, I have drilled a couple of holes at one end. You'll see why later on. There's no surprises. You can't have a surprise. You need everything now. Well, you're just going to have to wait. The I-beam has been fixed with superglue and baking soda, which makes a lovely rust technique, which is perfect for this build. Maybe not if you want to do something a bit neater and cleaner. And now it's time to add more card, a thinner card, a cheaper card, and I'm going to use this to make the roof of the barn. See, I just did what I did say I was going to do there. And once that roof is on, I'm going to add a candy floss stick, cotton candy stick, to you Americans, just to add a lip to the roof there, just to give it something to rest on. And once the bones of the roof are in place, it's time to add many, many sheets of corrugated card. Now, the great thing about corrugated card is that when you bend a piece of corrugated card, it looks like a bent piece of corrugated iron. So you can do anything you want to this, and it will look like corrugated iron when it's finished. And once all the sheets are in place, I'll place a nice bent piece of corrugated card along the top.
Start with the sticks, like so, making a bed where the marbles go. You don't want those marbles, not at all. So pick a stick, but don't let them fall. Cause if it goes kerplunk, you're sunk.
Kerplunk from Tycho.
Remember Kerplunk? Well, this is one of the sticks from Kerplunk. I'm going to use this. You might think this is sacrilegious to chop something so old up. But the game's rubbish, let's be honest. I'm going to use the stick for bars in the window. And once they're in place, I'm going to use this mesh from a sieve behind it to diffuse the light a little bit. Now these things are bloody sharp. When you cut these, be very careful. And when you've got the right shape, toss it at the building and it should fix itself automatically. This little white cross is a Barbie crucifix. You get it from the Barbie nun range. That's not true. This is a tile spacer, I believe. I've had them for a long time. And I'm going to use these as little metal details in the brickwork. Like some kind of support. I don't know. I'm not a builder or an architect. This is a cable tie. Just cracked my knuckles, incredibly unprofessional. I'm going to use this cable tie as a bit of detail. At this point we're just adding details. The more detail we add, the more it distracts from the fact that it's a model. I also have this plastic walkway framework thing from a toy. I don't know where I got it from, but this is handy. I'm using this for conduits and studded frames. Just junk, basically. There are many sayings about barns, i.e. shut the barn door after the horses have bolted. But my favourite has to be, I compare myself to a good barn. You can have a good barn, and if you paint it, it looks a little better. But if you take the paint off, it's still a good barn. Dolly Parton. Anyway, this barn needs doors. That's where I'm going with this. Another great barn quote. Do not let a flattering woman coax and wheedle you and deceive you. She is after your barn. From Hesiod. Hesiod. Now I'm heading over to my little drawers here and I need chains. Here we go. I wish all my projects could just build themselves. Anyway, I'm going to use some super glue to stiffen this chain up. This thing looks like a cowboy spur, but it's a hole punch. And I'm going to make rivets.
I don't know that.
Jesus Christ, Alexa, I'm in the middle of doing a video here! This is my gym membership card. I don't need this because I've completed exercise. So I'm going to use this to make rivets with the hole punch, like so. This can take a little while. Once you've got a nice big pile of them ready to be attached to your model, take out your art shiv. Art shiv!
Yeah.
And use this to skewer the rivets, dip them in super glue and then attach each rivet one by one. I have gone through the effort to make a small montage here, but I haven't gone crazy with it. I do like to manage your expectations, but off camera I have added studs or rivets all over the bloody thing. Took a good long while, and also while I was at it I found this tiny plastic hook that I've sharpened with a blade with the art shiv and attached to the chain. This is the point in the video where you're all going to be saying, Dan, you've lost it, you've gone crazy. Why on earth are you cutting a giant hole in the roof of your brand new model? Well, have faith. There is a reason for it, and I will explain the reasons to you during the painting process, which, let's be honest, is the most boring part of the process. Using my art shiv and cutting a hole, pressing the edges there, and then once that hole is there I'm going to add a few sort of structural details underneath, a bit of plastic, a couple of bits of wire. And then we pretty much are onto the painting stage. So I want to take a quick moment to thank the patrons. Try not to skip this. I know you all skip this bit. Try not to skip it, it's only a minute. It's a minute long, maybe. Thanks for watching. I love you all. Give me your purse, innit? Blah! It's raining. That's why I look like a hoodlum. But I'd just like to say thank you to the patrons. And I'm going to read out the toppest tier. I've just been to work. And I quickly made a note of them on the back of this Pikachu Pez. Thank you very much to Gemma Ingram, Benedict Miller, Country Fried Minis, Dave Birdsall, Demon Mitten Hands, Ed Trotz, Isabel, Julian Soto, Miranda Stone, Shite Hawk, Smokey, and Zoltan. Thank you very much. And thank you very much to the second tier. I'm sorry, I can't read all the names out anymore because it takes too long. But thank you so much. And thank you very much to the third tier. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you for supporting me. Those of you that wish to join Patreon to support me, there is content there. There's stuff there. I'm doing my best to add vlogs. If you'd like to see a vlog about Salute 50, here's a little clip. It was at this point I told Bill that during the panel his flies were undone and his left testicle was visible to the first 3 rows. He did not take the news well and decided to strike out. That's on there. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the video. Thanks. This model is predominantly thin card. So I'm going to cover the entire thing in the Black Magic Mod Podge solution, which is black paint and Mod Podge. Sorry, had a bit of indigestion there. You know, I could re-record these things, but I don't. Just going to slaver that on there. And while I do this painting, I think I'll explain what this project is. I mean, you can see what I'm painting this thing with. I show the paints and the techniques. You can see, you got eyes. Assuming you're not just listening to the video, in which case I'm sorry. But this is a visual medium. This isn't a podcast. Right, so I'm just going to ramble on for a bit here, unless there's something I really need to point out. Bill, making stuff, my twin brother, has made himself a world called, I don't know what the world's called, but he's made a town in a sci-fi post-apocalyptic type planet place called Respite. Bill has a certain type of miniature he's created called the Beadbots, Rusters, which were Beadbots, I think they're called Rusters now. And I have my horrors that are predominantly clay. Now I want to play a game with Bill at some point, a war game. And for this to happen, I need a spawn for my monsters in his world. Now this barn is in a farm out in the middle of nowhere, and this story's a bit thin, but a meteor went through the roof of the barn. That's why there's a hole. And then there was some kind of organism in this meteor, and it grew and spawned, and these monsters came out of this thing. It's a very weak plot, but I'm going to build on it. It's just to get it started, just so there's an excuse for us to play. And once this building is painting, and you've probably noticed in the thumbnail, you will see the effects of this spawning. Luckily that ramble has stopped just in time for me to explain my stone brick technique. I start off with a medium grey, cover all the bricks in the medium grey, and then using a mix of greys and browns and beiges, I pick out individual bricks and paint them solidly. Just like this. And then with a torn bit of sponge, I'm going to spackle on a bit of dirt or sort of dark brown, just to make them look a little uneven. Now you're probably thinking those stones look a bit bold, a bit mismatchy. Surely if you're going to get stone bricks from a place, they'd all be the same sort of colour. Well, hold your horses there, because I will fix that. But before I finish the bricks, apparently I'm going to add some rust to the roof using the sponge and a very bright orange. That's the thing, when you're painting rusty, dirty, derelict buildings, you can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong, as long as the things look dirty. That's fine, and we can all make dirt. We do it, well, I mean, I don't do it as regularly as I used to, but we make dirt every day. Next, take out your mother's makeup brush, or girlfriend's, if you're so lucky, or it could be your own. And we're going to dry brush a light, I think it's a deck tan, I think that's what it's called, on the bricks, to sort of marry them all up a bit. It may look a bit bright, but that's fine, because I'm going to fix that in the next stage. But already on this incredibly janky pan, you can see that the stones are more married, more similar, of the same ilk. Subtle differences. For some reason I'm not doing all of the stone now. I've moved on to painting the metal panels, and to do this I'm using some muted colours and dabbing them on, but not touching the edges of the panels, so it looks like chipped paint basically. This is a drone shot. Yes, I have a tiny drone flying around my bedroom of all the panels painted, just to give you an idea. Now these will seem a bit bold, a bit striking at the minute, but just like the stones, we're going to mute everything and marry them all up. I say marry an awful lot on these videos. It's almost like I'm desperate to be married. I'm desperate for the wedding night. This is the wash stage using a green wash and I think it's a sepia wash, or maybe umber. I think it's umber, forget me. I don't know what I'm talking. Using umber and green, I'm going to stain all of the stones. Just the odd patch of green, but all over brown. And the result of this, the stones are much more like each other. And it doesn't look so garish anymore, does it? See, you didn't have faith. It looks alright, and it could be better. It can be better, and I'm going to show you how with a black oil wash. Now, everybody and their mothers are talking about black oil washes. It's all over the YouTube crafting sphere. But I'm going to do it. I don't usually do it because it takes so bloody long to dry. But this thing needs it. So with some black oil paint, some white spirit, and a tiny little shot glass, I'm going to make a black oil wash and slaver it all over this thing. Now every single time you slaver this stuff on, it's very disconcerting. I mean, look at the state of that. But you can remove it later on easily and it will dry lighter. It will be fine. This thing takes probably overnight to dry fully, so while it does dry, go to the boot of your car and take out the bundle of rope that I know you all have for such situations. This is jute twine. You can find jute twine in most shops. The kind of shop where you buy furniture polish, that kind of thing. There'll be some jute twine there. Anyway, I'm going to take this jute twine, cut pieces off, and then dismantle them. Take the threads apart. And this is to make the spawny, gory, spawny element of the barn that you probably saw in the thumbnail. This is a Jaeger bomb cup, I think. Plastic Jaeger bomb cup. I don't drink Jaeger bombs, I just happen to buy these. You can use any cup you like, but I'm going to dump the string into this and then add a red alcohol ink to get this thing lovely and red and tendon-like. And then let a big pile of gore dry out. Look at that. Disgusting. Once all the little tendons have dried out, take some, I think this is just wood glue, and massage it into the twine so it keeps its shape, and twist it as you do so to tighten it up a little bit. We want to make little tendrils here. Now, as far as this build goes, this is probably the most fiddly part of the entire build. I'm using hot glue to attach these tendrils to the inside of the building where you won't see, and then threading them through the hole and using tiny bits of hot glue to attach them to the roof in a wavy tentacle-like pattern. This was the difficult part because no other glue was holding it in place. But luckily the hot glue adds to the sort of gory glossy effect when some more red alcohol ink is added to the top of it. I spent a good long time adding these tendrils to all of the barn's orifices, just creeping out, and I harnessed the invention of fire just to burn away the odd loose strand. But be careful, don't set fire to your house or anything. Next I take some red wool and some Fabri-Tac, which is a glue especially for fabrics, and attach them all to the edges around the tendrils and stuff, just to give it a bit more detail. Just a blob of the Fabri-Tac glue, and then spread the wool out, stretching outwards in the same direction as the rest of the tendrils. I imagine that these are little baby tendrils that have yet to grow, but one day they'll be just as big as their parents. Also use a bit of fire for this, be careful. And then, after days of adding wool and twine to the thing, it's pretty much done. All we need to do now is add a base, and the base will match both my miniatures and Bill's Town of Respite, although he has stressed to me that this is in a completely different place. It's like he's ashamed. This is a sheet of MDF. It's usually the backing that you'd get on a picture frame or something, and if you have an IKEA near you, they usually have what looks like a smoking shed thing that's full of all these bits of wood that they have signs on saying please take what you want, and that's where I found sheets and sheets of this stuff. It's a very good tip. I'm cutting a rounded edge at the front there, you'll see why later on, and cutting it terribly, might I add, and then using the handyman's murder weapon to bevel the edges. And once those edges are sanded, it's ready for the barn to return. Good boy. I'm using my daughter's marker pen here to mark out where the door will be, because I'm going to add some more of these tendrils on the floor coming out. Like so. I've also stacked the rest of the tendrils that I've got spare inside, because although it's going to be incredibly dark, if you do look close enough you'll be able to see a big stack of these. And yes, I am aware that this is very War of the Worlds. Now, to do the boring basing stage, I'm not a fan of basing. I'm using the same recipe as I use for my horror minis, which is sand, little cork rocks that are a pain in the arse to stick, by the way, and some little tufts of yellow grass, dead grass, pretty much. And I'm not going to show you that whole process because you could just see it on the other videos, and it's boring. It's boring by now. Now, with the adding of isopropyl alcohol to the sand and the alcohol ink on the tendrils, the red has bled out a little, and I can't really see what it looks like at this point. It looks like a mess, but hopefully it looks fine when it's dry. You'll just have to see the showcase for that. This is the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. Hang around to see this model and the other models that go with it. And I'm looking forward to doing more stuff like this. Please leave a comment if you like this, if you want more buildings, terrain kind of things. Please say you want that. It's what I want. If you want to support the channel, then please consider doing it through Patreon. I'm chucking all kinds of content at the patrons at the minute, because they are my lifeblood. As are all of you that watch these videos. Like and subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to say it every time. Thank you very much.